I caught my own father, my own dad, actively damaging my home, but what he said next sent a chilling wave down my spine and revealed a secret family plot so twisted, it made me question everything. You won't believe what he had planned for my nephews. So, a few days ago, my dad came over to my place. It had been a while, and honestly, a lot had changed. See, my husband and I both live with disabilities. I have a nervous system condition that can just completely knock me out during a flare, and he has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. To manage our conditions and just, live without constantly crashing, we poured our hearts into renovating our home. We added these specific accommodations, some DIY, some professional. And I gotta say, the results? Life-changing. I have more energy, fewer crashes. My husband feels so much more functional, and we were honestly just elated. My dad, though? Not a fan. Not even a little bit. He walked in, looked around, and just started in on how weird it all was. He was worried about resale value, which, whatever, we're not selling. I kept trying to gently steer the conversation, tell him, "Dad, this just works for us." But he just wouldn't let it go. He was getting really worked up, which is actually pretty unusual for him in those kinds of situations. Our plan for the day was simple. He'd meet my foster dog, maybe adopt him, and then we'd take the dogs for a walk and grab lunch. So we did the walk, and then I left him alone for just a minute to use the bathroom. When I came back out, my blood ran cold. He was in the kitchen, actively trying to pull one of our custom, accommodating mechanisms right out of the wall. He hadn't destroyed it, not functionally, but he'd definitely caused aesthetic damage. We'd have to repaint. I was shocked. Honestly, I think I was a little hysterical. I just snapped. I yelled, "What the F are you doing, Dad? What is your problem?" He looked at me, a little flustered, and said, "I just wanted to see if it was removable. Sorry, it's just too weird. It's too weird. It's just not going to work when Billy and Bobby move in with you." Billy and Bobby. My nephews. My brother's kids. I froze. Move in with me. What the hell was he talking about? I have never invited them to stay, let alone move in. And to my knowledge, if something tragic ever happened, I would be so far down a very long list of potential guardians. It's not even funny. This comment came out of absolutely nowhere, laden with so much frustrated emotion. I was completely blindsided. I tried to get him to clarify, repeatedly, but he just waved me off, saying, "Forget I said anything. I don't want to talk about it." I pressed him hard. Finally, he just said, "Well, honey, it's a massive house. You have room for 2 boys." When I asked him why he'd even bring it up, making it crystal clear I had zero desire to host them, much less have them move in, he clammed up again. "Forget I ever said anything," he insisted. He did apologize for the damage, immediately zelled me more than enough to fix it, and we still went to lunch. The rest of the day was normal. And I guess I was just so stunned I didn't bring it up again right then. But now, days later, it's eating at me. I can't shake it. First off, my dad would never be that aggressive about renovations in my brother's homes. He just wouldn't. It makes me feel like he respects my home less because I'm a woman and that sucks. But the real gut punch? What the hell was he talking about with my nephews? Is my family secretly plotting to move those kids in with me? It wouldn't be the first time they've assumed I'd take care of them without asking, but in the past, it was just babysitting. And I've already explicitly told everyone that even that is unacceptable. So the idea of them moving in? It was beyond comprehension. I was spinning. My nephews, Billy and Bobby, can be a handful. They're a little delayed and honestly pretty entitled. My sister-in-law struggles to be alone with them, and my brother has a demanding job, so they've always leaned heavily on family for childcare. When I lived with my dad, I was basically their primary caregiver, which I hated. But I did manage to set some boundaries even then. Still, the thought of the moving in now was terrifying for a whole other, much darker reason. See, I've been dealing with a stalker for years, an old friend who became fixated on my husband. She's actually threatened my nephews before. I distanced myself from them, stopped picking them up from school, and the threat stopped. But bringing them into my home now, especially while I'm trying to pursue legal action, it would put them, and me, in direct danger. It would be an escalation I can't even stomach. There are a million reasons why it would be a bad idea, but chiefly it wouldn't be safe. My dad, he's always been a master of triangulation. He'd tell my brother, "Your sister is so upset she can't make it to your party. She wishes you'd move it an hour earlier." Then he'd tell me, "Your brother is so heartbroken you can't come to his party. He's even moving it up an hour for you." We'd both feel weird, resentful, and neither of us would find out we were played until years later. He wants to keep the family together, but he does it by lying and manipulating. He's 70, still sharp at work, but he has a history. He rejected an OCD diagnosis after my parents' divorce. Was this his manipulation, or was something actually wrong? My brothers and I were starting to get really worried about his cognitive function. So the very next day, I called my brother. He was absolutely clueless, genuinely surprised. He had no idea why Dad would say such a thing and swore he'd never expressed anything about the kids needing to move in with me. He confirmed what I already knew. I wouldn't even be near the top of the list of permanent caregivers. He knows I run 2 businesses out of my house and, frankly, I'm just not equipped for that. We both agreed that Dad doesn't show other signs of decline, but this outburst was so out of left field, we couldn't rule out that it was an early symptom. My brother, Billy and Bobby's dad, said he'd talk to our father ASAP. We had to confront him. It was a really uncomfortable conversation because we basically had to say, "Dad, you need to be honest. Is this confusion or intentional manipulation?" Because that's the difference between us freaking out about your health versus just understanding that sometimes you lie to push your agenda, but your brain is fine. 8 months later, after endless conversations with Dad, my brothers, and me, we finally pieced it together. My dad doesn't have dementia. If anything, it's just his lifelong manipulative nonsense becoming a little more pronounced, and frankly, he's not as slick as he used to be. The truth? Ever since I moved out, leaving an empty bedroom and office at my dad's house, my sister-in-law had been obsessively pushing for my nephews to live at my dad's during summers and school breaks. I knew she'd brought it up, but I didn't know how relentless she was. My dad only lives 15 minutes away from them, so it wasn't some special vacation. She just wanted them out of her house for the summer. Now, my nephews love staying with Grandpa because my dad, bless his heart, has never been a real caregiver. No rules, no bedtimes, unlimited sweets, no screen time limits, no one checking if they brush their teeth or shower. Zero supervision. So, when their mom asked them, "Want to ask Grandpa if you can stay all summer?" they went wild. And my dad, who absolutely hates saying no to family because he never wants them to say no to him, agreed. He tried it last summer. It was a nightmare. Even with a daily babysitter who eventually quit, it was torturous and exhausting for him. He swore he'd never do it again. But here's the thing about my dad. He's addicted to being the family hero. He needs us all to need him, to think he's great. He has this massive ego about defying age, being energetic, not an old man. He couldn't bring himself to admit he just didn't have the energy for those kids. And he wouldn't say no because he thrives on no one being allowed to have boundaries. So, what was his brilliant plan? He was going to pawn the kids off on me this summer. He was going to agree to take them, then bring them to my house and, in his words, ease into a smooth transition from his house to mine. Knowing my dad, he'd beg me to take them for just one day, drop them off with overnight bags, say, "Didn't you say they could sleep over?" Then make up a million excuses why they needed to stay longer and longer until the summer was over. Personally, I know for a fact that wouldn't have worked. I'd have been dropping those kids off at their own damn house or calling the cops within 24 hours. But he, the manipulator, truly believed he could pull it off because I used to be a massive doormat. And my sister-in-law? Get this, my dad had already asked her if this was okay, me taking the kids, and she said yes. But she never, not once, ever mentioned it to me. She just stood there, silently, while my brothers and I were literally frantic that our dad had a brain tumor or something. I honestly think she knew my dad was going to dump her kids on me, and she didn't want to risk having them, gasp, live in her own house all year. When I asked her, "So, you didn't think you should even confirm this with me?" she swore she remembered talking to me about it. Girl, no. You did not. I would never agree to that. My brother is livid with his wife. He hates how reliant she is on outside help, especially since he's such an involved dad, and they already have paid childcare. We're all just so over my father's triangulation. We're adults, pushing 30 and 50, and he still schemes like we're bickering children he needs to manage to keep the family together. It's insane. He's obsessively trying to maintain this preferred status quo that just makes less and less sense. I'm truly annoyed. I had so many important things going on in my life, good and bad, that needed my full attention. Instead, my focus was split, pulled away by worrying that my father was suffering from neurological issues and refusing treatment. My brothers and I wasted so much emotional energy. All for what? For some stupid BS about his pride, him applying his twisted preferences to our lives again. It's been a tough lesson, realizing that sometimes the ones you love can cause the most chaos, not out of malice or illness, but out of their own deeply ingrained, manipulative patterns. What would you have done in my place, realizing your family was plotting behind your back like that? Have you ever had to deal with a master manipulator in your own family? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.